What's up, guys? I'm Kristalina, aka Jasmine Borders on Tyler Perry's Sisters. Be sure to subscribe to the Haves and the Have-Nots review for not only reviews on the Haves and the Have-Nots, but also on Sistas. And while you're at it, give your girl a follow on Instagram at Kristalina, and I'll see you every Wednesday at 9 only on BET.
All right, Sisters fans, we only have 2 episodes left before season 1 comes to a close. Now, before diving into the topic of this video, first off, make sure if you have not done so already, follow Kristalina Naomi on Instagram. I will leave a link to her Instagram in the top comment and pin it in the comment section below. Also, shout out to the patrons over on Patreon who support me over there, where I make content exclusively for the patrons, not here on YouTube. So if you'd like to join me and support me over there for as little as $2 a month, there's a link to my Patreon in the description below, as well as anyone who would like to contribute any kind of donation to the channel. You can hit me up on PayPal. There's a link below as well. Or if you could just send a couple bucks on Cash App, I'd really appreciate it. It is not mandatory. You watching this video helps me in more ways than you can ever know. So before going any further, if you are new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button and the bell notification icon. That way you don't miss out whenever I post new content to this channel. Let's go for a goal of 75 likes on this video. And without further ado, follow me on social media. Links to all the platforms in that good old description box. And let's dive on to this subject, just like Jasmine unintentionally dived into the roof of that car and apparently died. Or maybe she didn't. Or maybe she did. Have you watched the trailer for next week? But this video is about the questions. Number 1, should Jasmine Borders get a spin-off series similar to Roof in The Oval, who has Roofless, which is a very great series on BET+. And if Jasmine were to get a spin-off series, what would it look like? This video is pretty much going to go over some different things that Tyler Perry could go over if the Jasmine series was to be created. To be completely honest, I think it should be created due to the fact that, and no, this has nothing to do with the fact that I really like Kristalina Naomi. It has nothing to do with that. So before you say, I ship Kristalina and Jeremy in the comments, no, this is actually a thought-provoking video because there are a lot of valid points, unanswered questions, and the foundations for a spinoff that honestly I feel like we deserve. Not to sound entitled, but as fans, this is some very convincing story elements that Tyler Perry kind of wove into the scripts of the early episodes. Notice how Jasmine during the first half of the season only had like a handful of appearances, but in every single one, she kind of stole the show. And I mentioned this in some of my early episode reviews. I mean, Jasmine Borders, to be honest, the Andy, Gary, Jasmine storyline was really the thing that was keeping me invested in the show. I remember kind of dipping around episode 12 to like episode 16, but then people told me to come back and watch the show. And then around episode 17 and 18, I don't know why, but the show just kind of spiked in quality, maybe because the other girls had compelling storylines. Because I remember at one point Sabrina was my favorite, but then it just got to the point where she was just being way too judgmental of Calvin, despite how questionable some of his behavior was. It just got to the point where she was more concerned about what other people would say, more so what other people thought about Calvin, as opposed to having a conversation with Calvin about his behavior, which she did, but honestly, she didn't really take him at his word. Then you had Danny, who was like the comic relief, who didn't seem to have a solid story going on for herself, aside from being the, I guess you could say, emotional coach for Zach in order to get him back together with Karen, who was going through her own weird kind of story arc with the Aaron and Fawn thing. And the Andy thing was the only thing that kept me interested. Then I kind of fell out, got back into the show. The back half, out of this world good. But all that's to say, Jasmine Borders, what could this series cover? Actually, looking at my notebook here, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Just around 15 different story elements that could be put into this series. Now, looking at Roofless, and I kind of want to compare the shows of what Roofless is now compared to what a Jasmine Borders series could be. I remember when the show first started, and there's only 6 episodes that are out right now, so I could be completely wrong in terms of what could happen during the back half of the Roofless season 1. I was thinking that it would kind of be cool if maybe in like the first episode of Ruthless, aside from just picking up where we left off in the Oval, in terms of when Tally, Ruth, and two guys kidnap Callie from Nancy's house, what if we get like a couple episodes that build up to the kidnapping? Like we get some, story elements about Ruth and how she came to join the cult, and then the exact reasoning to why she was instructed to bring Callie into the fold. Then we get the scene from the Oval, and then we jump into the series. However, that isn't what we've gotten. We've pretty much gotten glimpses to what led up to her child being brought to the cult in the form of dialogue, but sometimes it's about show, not tell. So in terms of Jasmine, maybe because for whatever reason in a lot of television shows, the first episode for some reason has to open with a sex scene, maybe we can actually see some along the lines of, Jasmine and Morris going at it in bed. Remember, Gary and Jasmine's bed, which she didn't bother to change the sheets on, and she proudly proclaimed that, oh yeah, you can just come in, you just came into the room, got in bed, and you were sleeping on his dry fluids, which Gary said he didn't care, but to me, I would just want to take a Lysol bath after that. Ugh. So I'm thinking that during that sex montage, if the show does decide to open like that, remember we got a sex scene that was unseen in the Haves and Have-Nots episode 1 when Candace met Jim. Of course, we had the infamous shed scene between Alex and Randall in the very first moments of If Loving You Is Wrong. We didn't have a sex scene at the opening of Ruthless episode 1, but we did see one between Lynn and Brian, and the list goes on. But when it comes to this Jasmine show, perhaps while Morris and Jasmine are doing it, Jasmine is having like an inner monologue, not to display, oh wow, because Jasmine has mental issues. No, that's not it. It's just like a common trope in some storytelling where the character is saying like, how did it come to this? I met the man in my dreams. We got married. We have a family. But he grew cold. He grew distant. And now I'm here in our bed having sex with another man. How did he get to this point? And then boom, we kind of flashback. Like the first scene could be Morris and Jasmine, but then the first episode could be the building blocks going in the past, showing how Jasmine and Gary met. Were they high school sweethearts? Gary isn't. Wow, I sound like I have a list there. I did when I was younger, believe it or not. Took speech class in first grade. Yeah, little fun fact about me. The irony of having to take speech classes for a couple of years due to my lisp, like saying strawberry, or was it scrimp instead of shrimp? But now I have a communications degree. I'm not afraid to public speak, and I record voice stuff for a living. Life is funny, ain't it? So going back to the spinoff, Gary is apparently an athlete, which I don't believe we know what sport he plays. I could be wrong if they mention that in maybe an episode of Sisters I did not watch, but maybe Jasmine was a fan and, met because of Gary's notoriety, and then they eventually got together, and then show the courting phase, like Gary being introduced to Jasmine's family, such as her siblings. We know she at least has a sister who Danny saw Gary with at the airport, her mother, and then the fact that, that Gary said that apparently her mom is a bit crazy, and then that's something that kind of translated down to Jasmine, which may or may not have affected their son who has mental issues. I don't know. Then maybe we get to build. Okay, this was one of those things I was disappointed in during the cliffhanger where we have Jasmine pretty much setting the car on fire and whatnot. So she takes Gary's mother's urn and pours the ashes into the gas tank of the car, but the urn just kind of popped out of nowhere. So it's like, I mean, we knew it was obviously in the car with the rest of Gary's things, but the problem was, well, there wasn't any build up to it. Like, yeah, it's really effed up that someone would pour your mother's ashes into a car and then set it on fire because of the fact that she died in a house fire. But the thing is, I didn't feel any emotional connection to that. It's like, yeah, I get why Gary's pissed, but we've never gotten a reference to that part of his life. I mean, it's just kind of just like that. It's almost like there was a deleted scene we didn't see. This is why Tyler Perry needs to either release this stuff on DVD or put out like bloopers and deleted scenes, behind the scenes stuff, because there could have been a couple of things that I guess you could say built up to the urn. So as an audience, when we see the urn, it's like, no, she didn't, as opposed to, wait, what's happening here? So I think that that'll be interesting if, Jasmine probably goes over to like Gary's house and then notices the urn and learns the backstory of what happened to his mother. And then that leads to, of course, them eventually getting married. But also, okay, why didn't Gary get a prenup? Was it a situation where he was just blinded by love? He thought that this was going to be forever. And maybe, who knows, maybe he had people in his life telling him not to marry Jasmine. Maybe not because she was a bad person, but just because Gary, hey, you're young, you're in your prime. Maybe you don't want to get settled down right now, but maybe Gary's like, you know what, I'm tired of chasing, I'm ready to just settle down, almost like JT on the 5 Heartbeats. Except when he took Duck's fiance. Girlfriend, then fiance. Man, that was a messed up move, do that to your brother. So I'm thinking that maybe we can get some build up on that. That would be great. Definitely. I mean, just to kind of sidebar to another character, Alonzo, I believe is the name of the character, who is an athlete and ex-basketball player. The man that tried to get Sabrina's number at the bank, but then Sabrina gave him Maurice's number instead. And then, that led to the hate crime that has Maurice in the hospital now. And I'm wondering, like I said before, I am uncertain if they actually mentioned what sport Gary played in terms of making him a successful and wealthy athlete. But let's say it is basketball. What if him and Alonzo know each other because maybe they were on the same team, or, obviously they played a few games against each other. But in any case, it would be interesting if, let's say, Alonzo was involved with Gary in his past. Like I just said before, same team, different teams, whatever, but they know of each other and kind of passing. What if it's a situation where Alonzo kind of cameos in the series for maybe an episode where we don't have to have a full-on Alonzo episode, but just him being in there, and perhaps we get some backstory as to why he, performs these kind of hate crimes against, transgenders or, homosexual people, just, basically hate crimes against that community. So that would be interesting because, again, it would be a great way to kind of tie in some of the current events in the Sisters series with, maybe 1 or 2 cameos of Alonzo in the spin-off series for Jasmine. So there's really things that Tyler Perry, the building blocks are there. It's just about creating the entire structure to put all this stuff together. Because we all know how I'm a stickler for timelines and making sure continuity holds true. Unlike the events that are going on right now in Ruthless and the Oval. And yes, I will be doing a complete video talking about how Tally still being at the compound, even in episode 6, makes no sense to the continuity of the Oval. And I'm going to stop myself right there before I go on an entire tirade. So, moving on. Now, aside from the Alonzo thing, we also have to ask the question, okay, so they get married. What happens next? We know they have kids. One of their children, their son has he's like special needs. So once again, is that something that could potentially be linked to Jasmine's side of the family? I don't know. But the most important question, aside from the lack of a prenup, is what was it that made Gary fall out of love with Jasmine? I mean, he even goes on to say in one episode, I think it was the one where Jasmine confronts Gary at Andy's apartment. Like, he's like, hey, I'm not in love with you anymore, but I love you for being the mother of our children. And they've had marriage counseling for about 3 years now. So what was it that made Gary kind of fall out of love? We know that in the episode that aired this week, what was the title of it? Okay, you had the yellow dress, but then that was the one before. Yeah, that was the one where Jasmine falls on the car. But what was the name of the episode that aired this week? Should have looked it up. But basically, it's the one where at the beginning, Jasmine's on the car, and at the ending, she's been murdered. Dun, dun, dun. But basically, at the beginning of the episode, Jasmine says some stirring words about how, why would you do this to me? And I'm thinking to myself, well, you kind of were wailing on him with a bat. Secondly, he didn't even intend for you to go flying off the top of the garage. He just wanted to get you off. But basically, it's like she's erasing any involvement to the circumstances that she's currently in. But she does say some things behind tears about how, why do you hate me? Why would you do this to me? Why? The only reason I got with Morris is because you start to act cold towards me and distant, and I was weak and vulnerable, and he came after me, and I was so helpless, and then that's why we started knocking the boots. Yeah, I was listening to Spotify earlier. But that also brings about the question three. Well, let me see here. 1, 2, 3, 4 to 5 different elements. Number one, when did Morris become like a legal advisor for the Borders family? Number two, when exactly did this affair with Morris take place? Number three, how did Gary find out about the kind of person Morris is, in reference to him warning Andy not to go out with him because he's aware of, the kind of guy Morris is and how he treats women and stuff like that? I'm guessing, based off of what Jasmine said in the last episode. She says that due to Gary's cold behavior, that's how she was a bit vulnerable when it came to Morris. And then that's when they started going at it. So, did this take place before or after Gary started messing around with Andy? I want to say before, just because Jasmine's intel from the last episode kind of put the timeline a bit together, due to the fact that we know they've been doing marriage counseling for like 3 years. So I don't know for sure if Morris and Jasmine have been having their affair for 3 years. I would estimate maybe 1.5 years minimum. So that leads to the Jasmine getting suspicious, then hiring the Leslie, the private investigator, to follow Gary around. And then we also got the backstory on how Andy and Gary met. Guess what? We can have that be reenacted in one of the episodes of this series. And then from there, I guess you could see the slow descent in Jasmine emotionally and mentally falling apart. I wonder if it really comes down to the pain of seeing their children. Basically seeing her children become emotional wrecks when their daddy is leaving all the time, saying that he's not coming back and things like that. So I'm wondering if maybe their son with special needs, he and Jasmine almost have like a connection based off their mental, stability. And maybe Jasmine slowly begins to uncrumble as a result of, their children's emotional reactions to Gary always leaving. You could also make the argument that another reason, aside from being weak and emotionally vulnerable, that Jasmine kind of fell prey to Morris's advances, perhaps the fact that he becomes a bit unstable himself when he does cocaine, as Andy put it. Could that be a reason for the Morris and Jasmine semi-attraction? I don't know, because obviously, I don't want to say obviously, but as far as I know, Jasmine does not suffer from substance abuse. It's just a mental kind of thing she's going through. So I'm just thinking at some level, she's attracted to Morris because of that, which is a story element that could definitely be portrayed in this series. So let's see, just to make sure I got everything we talked about, and I just want to go over the bullet point list to make sure I pinpointed everything that Tyler Perry has kind of left breadcrumbs for in the Sistas series, which he could definitely pick up and expand on in this Jasmine spinoff. How Jasmine and Gary met, them meeting each other's family, getting married, no prenup, their kids, the whole Alonzo, if they wanted to throw that into the mix, if he happened to be within the same realm of sports as Gary. The situation with Morris in terms of how did he get hired, how did Gary find out about the dog he is, when exactly did he start having an affair with Jasmine. When Leslie was hired, we can actually see some different scenes scattered throughout the season. Well, more like the back half, I guess. It depends on how many episodes are dedicated to the Jasmine storyline before Leslie is involved. We can see Leslie, doing her investigative work, finding evidence on multiple women. And then, of course, eventually Andy, and of course, the sister who was at the airport with Gary. So there's a lot of things that Tyler Perry could do with this potential spinoff. But here's the most important thing that I really wish that Tyler Perry would implement into this series if he ever made it. And it's the importance of the conversation of mental health within the Black community is something that's finally being discussed, over the past year or so, which is something that hasn't been talked about a lot at all. So, I mean, to kind of, and again, this isn't me telling Tyler Perry how to write, but to kind of like squash the stereotypes of the some of the instant criticism that comes with a Tyler Perry product has to do with either the wigs or it's the same old story every time, or just the bad way women are represented. You know, oh, they're just crazy, they're vindictive, they're irredeemable, and the list goes on with the same old criticisms over and over again. But I think this Jasmine series could be made to be something very special. I think that it could definitely bring awareness to how mental illnesses can run within a family, the importance of counseling, having a strong support system around you, why people with certain mental instabilities act the way that they do. Is it regards to not taking their meds or being in stressful situations, and, you know, just literally not having anybody to have them grounded. And if you look at my video, I forgot which one it was. Is Jasmine dead, or did Jasmine bring this on herself? In one of those videos, I pinpointed that Leslie was like the emotional anchor to keep Jasmine almost on like a leash. And once she got fired, Jasmine was left to her own devices, and that ultimately led to her untimely demise, allegedly. And then after that, we have to deal with the fact that if Leslie wasn't fired, then most likely Jasmine wouldn't have done what she did to the car and everything like that. So I'm thinking that this show could really show what was the movie Acrimony? Melinda Taraji's character in that one. We saw her mental decline as the movie went on. So it's almost like we can kind of see the same thing in the Jasmine series, but it could be done very well over time because it's not confined to like a 90-minute or 120-minute limit of a, you know, feature film. So I think if anything else, it could really make the viewers side with Jasmine and have an understanding for her, as opposed to, you know, oh yeah, the crazy girlfriend or crazy wife going off. Yeah, she's representing the crazy. That's my girl. But no, it's like we would actually have a reason to root for Jasmine, to see her pain, to see her side of things, instead of just the outcome, which is her lashing out against Gary, leading to what happened to her. So I think Jasmine is a character who does have a compelling story arc that is worthy of its own series. That's just my 2 cents. And no, I'm not just saying this because I would love to have a cameo in a show like this if it's created. No, I'm not just saying that. I'm really saying it because I like the character. Now, also, going back to something I kind of missed in my bullet points, because it literally just popped in my mind. When Jasmine was kind of, I wouldn't say vowing revenge, but more so cursing Andy to suffer for the rest of her life, like going back to like when she was threatening to ruin her entire career. It's like, yeah, I got friends in the media, and, you know, we'll make sure to destroy your careers. Maybe Jasmine was like a sports anchor or something like that, or like a, you know, somebody that works for a news station in some capacity, and maybe that's how she met Gary. Like, you know, she ran up to him with a microphone. It's like, so Mr. Borders, you know, what are your thoughts on the game just now? And then those two instantly had a connect. That would be great, because that would explain why she has so many powerful friends in the media and whatnot, because that was her past career before she retired, because she married a superstar. Ooh, yeah, see that? I like that. I like that. Boom. Maybe that'll be pre-bangs Jasmine, and then she changed her hairstyle when she got married. I don't know. I'm just throwing the idea out there. So, all that's to say, I would like to see the story. It could be 20 episodes, 24. I mean, even if the show's made, it doesn't have to be like 30 episodes or something. I think that if done correctly, this could be a very good show with a very good message. And I don't know if they would like reuse scenes from Sisters or kind of fill in the blanks. It's kind of interesting. It's kind of like, you know, if you compare the New Edition story to the Bobby Brown story, there are clearly elements of the Bobby Brown story that you could tell fit into the missing puzzle pieces of the New Edition story. So it's almost like maybe we don't need to see Jasmine fall off the garage again, but we can see when she comes over to the parking garage at Andy's apartment, loads the car with Gary stuff, you know, pretty much pulls an Angela Bassett. Because I think, what is it, in the house, in the mansion, in the movie Waiting to Exhale, she throws all of her husband's suits and belongings like a wagon or something, then or wheelbarrow, takes it down to the car, dumps it in there, and then leads to the fire. So we can see everything. Like, imagine Jasmine like tearing the house apart, and her kids, I know maybe they got a nanny, maybe the kids aren't there, I don't know, but basically they're like, mommy, what are you doing with daddy's things? And then she's like, don't worry about it, and then throws them in the car. And then maybe in her rush to get everything together, while she's going out of the house, she notices her mother-in-law's urn, and then she grabs it. And that would be a powerful moment, because earlier in the series we would know the importance of that urn, and then for her to take it would be like, oh shit, she's going to do it. And then actually seeing her pour it in the gas cap would make it a very compelling scene. So Tyler Perry, just saying, this show is gift wrapped right here in this video. So if you like Jasmine Borders, if you don't like Jasmine, but you're like, Jeremy, you made some valid points in this video, I want to know more. Let's do a show like this. Let's have Morris, Leslie, potentially Alonzo, Gary, Andy. And I'm not saying that every character in Sisters has to, I mean, well, technically you can have Danny in there if you want to do like a semi-extended scene of, or Zach and Danny, if you want to have like an extended scene of Gary and his sister-in-law walking through the airport. Or you can have a scene where we actually see them go off to visit, you know, Jasmine's mother, who was apparently sick but really wasn't, or whatever the situation was. There are so many opportunities to give other characters a chance to be in the show for more than just one cameo appearance, or some of the Sisters cast to be in a few episodes of this series, because guess what? I don't think any actors or actresses would be mad for a little extra work. I mean, I could be wrong, but I'm not in that line of business. I'm just a guy who watches stuff and critiques it and reviews it. So all that's to say, I think this show could be great. I unfortunately couldn't think of a good name of it, though. I mean, who knows? I know Chandler was saying Ashes to Ashes. That would not be a bad title, but it would be kind of ironic. I don't know. If you can think of a title, list it in the comment section below. But towards the beginning of the video, I already did my social media plug, so no need to doing it here again. You know the drill. Subscribe, all that good stuff. Make sure you follow Crystal Lee. And also, I mean, not to just self-promote here, because, well, it is my channel, though. Tweet the video out. I don't know. Maybe go on Twitter, hashtag, or tag Tyler Perry, like, hey, make this spinoff happen. I mean, given the fact that Tyler Perry Studios is shut down like every other production company right now, I'm pretty sure, you know, I mean, I don't want to say pretty sure like I know the man's schedule, but shout out to Tyler Perry for all the various donations he's been doing over the past week, from buying groceries for seniors during senior hour, or donating what was like $21,000 to one of his favorite Atlanta-based restaurants to give tips to the staff. Kudos. That's great. Tweet Tyler Perry, just say, hey, look at this video. This is a Jasmine, you know, show. We want it, because everybody loves Jasmine, even if you love to hate her. I mean, I don't think hate is the right word. I would just say that she definitely brought this on herself. Not to say that Gary wasn't responsible in his own right. So trust me when I say that Jasmine brought this on herself. I'm not saying Gary is a saint, but it does feel a bit hard to feel sympathetic for Jasmine when we later find out that she's been having her own affair. But at least Gary didn't have it in their house and left the fluids of a female in the bed that Jasmine would sleep in. So that was kind of cold, Jasmine. Just saying. Just saying. But two wrongs don't make a right. But then again, we have no idea the number of women that Gary has been with compared to, I'm allegedly believing it was just Morris that Jasmine's been with. I think so. I could be wrong. But again, let me know if I made any valid points. I think I made some fun ones in this video. And we shall see what Jasmine's fate is in the next episode of Sisters. Did she really die? Did she fake her death to get Gary arrested? Did she flatline but then comes back to life? Yeah, if you saw the trailer, you know what went down. And I'll definitely do a trailer breakdown and episode review before the next episode comes on next Wednesday on BET. So all that's to say, thanks so much for tuning in. This video was fun. If you have any other potential spin-off or fun ideas you want me to talk about in another video, let me know. Please know if Loving You Is Wrong and Have and Have Not crossovers. I've done like 5 videos on that already over the years, and unfortunately it still hasn't happened yet. But that's not to say, well, hey, even if Loving You Is Wrong is in its final season, that doesn't mean we couldn't have a crossover at some point. Like if Loving You Is Wrong characters popping up in future seasons of the Haves and Have-Nots. Or I would love for Tyler Perry just to make a fun episode to see drunk Alex along with drunk Catherine, drunk Veronica. even though Lady May is in Greenleaf, she seems like a fun drunk based off the events of season 3. And then, of course, we have other characters. I mean, look on Ruthless. All the characters are high, eating and drinking. Okay, let me stop because this video will just turn into a bunch of nonsense. So, shout out to Kristalina. Hope this works out. And if it does, tell Tyler that, you know, I came up with a lot of the concepts, even though he really did set the foundation. I'm just putting it together. But Tyler Perry could definitely have a lot of potential spinoffs or branch off series from what he's created. Ruthless is off to a very good start. I know some people feel that show is a bit out there, but I think that's what makes it compelling. Guys, the storytelling is really good. Remember, I've been dogging on the haves and the have-nots this year, but Ruthless has definitely, I guess you could say, stepped out above the rest. Like the first couple episodes of Ruthless had me more intrigued than even Sisters and The Oval when those shows dropped. So I'm just saying, this spinoff can be done right. And I know that Bruh, which is the spinoff of Sisters, is coming to BET Plus soon. I don't know the dates or anything. But if that show is anywhere like even halfway good as Ruthless, we are in for a treat. And Bruh is pretty much a male version of Sisters, where we're going to have like 4 male characters. That's the main cast. And we'll just, I guess you could say, deal with their relationship drama with women. So I'm interested to see that from the flip side of things, because when you really think about it, a lot of the men and Sisters are being, you know, written to be evil and two-faced and have ulterior motives, while the women are the heroes, even though Andy's dating a married man and Karen got involved with someone who was still married, even though he eventually got divorced, and now she has to deal with the crazy ex-in-laws of his. Sabrina, extremely judgmental towards a man who is straight but yet has homosexual tendencies due to his 2 dads. And then you have Danny, who is kind of like a happy medium, where she seems the most balanced despite her character. So yeah, I would love to see the flip side of things, because that'll make things interesting. Yeah, this video is a lot longer than I thought it would be, but I hope this just makes it better. So again, thanks so much for tuning in, and I'll catch you all in the next video.